when you started work, I noticed that you did doubles, like over here.
Mm-hmm.
Did you start with the pastel painting first?
What I started with was there's a little tiny painting over there. I mean, some of these, like the ones in the sketchbook, represent, you know, first strikes, first stabs at what's going on. And that, as abstract as it appears, is the basis for both of the painting and the pastel. It's painted over the course of maybe 20 or 30 minutes before the light completely extinguished. And I never went back to it again. I looked at it and said, this says everything it needs to. I had a pastel that I'd done for a morning one, but we have a new cat in my studio, and he decided it was part of the scratching post. So he destroyed it, the little fellow. But that's, you know, it's a series of things. I did the pastel drawing from another quicker sketch and some photographs, and then that became more or less the basis for the big painting. You know, little drawings like this one, and there's another one in the back room that's, you know, the sycamores in spring, became the, and, you know, this one, which I started from life, became the basis for that one. So I hardly ever work directly from photographs because they just don't give me the information. I need something that, you know, it's like I need a mark, I need a color, something that will lead me to a better understanding of, you know, what the painting's about. Yes?
What is your pastel support, and do you use underpainting techniques?
In pastel? Usually they're pretty direct. I mean, you saw the ones in the sketchbook, and these are worked over just a little bit. I'm working on, you know, arches or reeves or Coventry paper, but whether it's a
Printmaking paper, not a specifically pastel.
no. I mean, I've tried sanded papers, and, you know, they don't really work for me. Plus, they eat up tons of pastel. And I work more on that now because, you know, the weight of the paper. You know, it's a little heavier. It's a little less prone to curling. You know, I was working on a thinner paper, a Canson paper that I sometimes still work with, but, you know, I like these pads too. Anyone else?
Question.
Yeah.
When you do the series where it's the same view,
Sure.
when you go from one to the other, you purposely selectively use a color palette?
No, it's completely intuitive. You know, I don't look at the previous drawing. You know, I mean, something like I did now is maybe the most I've sort of reflected on what I did before. But it's based on the way light changes things, but also this idea that when I'm drawing, you know, I'm looking at relationships. That's what I tell my students. You know, you're not trying to paint things, you're painting relationships. And the color of the sky is dependent on what's in front of it, and my own willingness to, you know, just say, well, what's the worst that can happen if I put something else down? You know, make a bad drawing. I'll fix it later. You know.
Sure.
Richard.
It's amazing how, to me, how much your paintings resemble a drawing that you've done.
Okay.
And I'm wondering if you find yourself making deliberate decisions while you're painting in order to make that happen.
Well, painting is, as I'm sure you can attest to, having worked in pastel and paint, at least oil paint takes a long time to dry, so it's easy to make it muddy. So the paintings, you know, maybe with the exception of that one, are, you know, done over a long period of time, and a process of, you know, rubbing. It's sort of like the way Bonnard was supposed to have painted, with a rag in one hand and a brush in the other. He'd make a mark and he'd rub it out, and he'd make another one, he'd rub it out. I don't know how he ever got a painting done. But scraping, sanding, wiping, you know, and more importantly, pushing color to, you know, a seemingly unnatural degree to get this sort of big dramatic contrast, comes from working with pastels. But it, you know, at least it has taken me a long time to better, you know, suit what it's about. That even closely resemble what an answer?
No, but it wasn't.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes.
One more.
Sure.
This particular body of paintings seems to flirt very attractively with that edge of abstraction.
Mm-hmm.
Do you see yourself moving more, leaning more in
Potentially, but abstraction to me is, I never want to completely abandon representation, because it intrigues me to think of how I could bend the rules continually further. Nocturnes, for instance, can have a tremendous sense of color contrast, and temperature contrast, warm and cool, but the values may all be the same, creating a sort of flattened sense of space. I could see even daytime paintings going that way, in the way that I am under control. I have the control of changing things any way I want to. So if abstraction comes out in a painting like that, or you want to call it expressiveness, or I'm perfectly okay with that. Because I think the whole matter of making a painting is really abstract. If you think too much about it, or too concerned about the subject, that's all it'll be about. And I think it has the potential to be so much more. Well, it's been great. Thanks for coming.